What keyword ranking strategies are you currently using? The entire goal for ranking is how many orders can we possibly get through that one specific search term. Now, I know there's a lot of talk in our space around like, oh, target like long tail search variations of the keyword and all that stuff. That does help. It's not going to have the most impact. So the most impact for any ranking keyword is going to be getting orders specifically through that search, getting a lot of orders. So we don't just want one, we want a lot. And also making sure that our click-through rate and our conversion rate are really high on those key terms. So I'll be honest with you, the biggest impact on ranking you can have is really by picking the right keywords. So if your question was, how do I figure out what keywords do I rank on? I would say like look for things that you can afford to spend a lot, i.e. you're not losing money, meaning ACoS isn't like so crazy high that you can't afford it. You want to look for things that you have really good conversion rates. Bonus points if you have good click-through rates here, but I would go for conversion rates over click-through rates. And then you just want to like put money towards that. Now, if you say, how do I rank on this specific keyword, then that question is a little bit different. And I'm just going to tell you like push volume. Now, what I recognize is that me saying, hey, push volume through a one specific search might mean that that's not super profitable. So that's where I'm saying like the real trick is going to lie in the actual targets that you select to rank on. Other things, some pro tips and some pro hacks are more advanced but can be helpful here, is if you have a specific search where it's like crazy expensive and you just don't really have the budget for it. Again, that goes back to keyword selection. Make sure you're selecting keywords where you can afford to spend that budget on it. But if we're on a specific keyword, you want to make sure that you're showing high enough in search that you can really get those good conversions and get those eyeballs on the product. But maybe you can't afford a ton of clicks because there's a lot of clicks and they're really expensive. And use the budget as sort of a lever to cap or meter how much money you are spending for that ranking play. Now, how effective that is going to be how many orders your market is making, and that's relative. So when I talk about trying to get a large amount of orders, it's relative to the other competition that is on that particular search page. Hello, and welcome back to another and last Ask Junglr. When I say last, I mean the last one of the year. So it is that time. We are nearing the end of the year. We're starting to see some wind down in accounts now. We'll see how that goes. But yes, I am so excited. This year has been a absolute blast. So many rollouts, so many new things, especially recently. So I'm sure we're going to get to talk about that. I want to do a quick intro though. So for those of you just joining, I want to say welcome. This is the time and the place for you guys to get answers to your most pressing Amazon advertising questions. And here we talk a lot about new and upcoming things. So a lot of crazy rollouts recently, things like sponsored products video, which actually I am currently should be able to put it out ideally, or at least have it finished by the end of today, a guide on like sponsored product videos. So we've been going a lot through that, starting testing that with a lot of our clients. We have been testing it for a while, but really getting into specific testing, things like prompts, starting to see one or two pop up in accounts. That's some crazy stuff. Sponsored brands video continues to be huge. I'm seeing more of those pop up on product pages now, which is really cool. Used to be not that many features there. So a lot to get into, which by the way, if this is your first time joining in, I want to say a huge welcome. So the format of this is whatever streaming platform you are listening in on, you can drop your Amazon ad question into the chat. I will pull it up and I will get you an answer. If I have a resource, if I have a video, oftentimes I have a guide. Like we actually have a guide on Q4 strategy. I had a question in one of the private groups I'm in just this morning that was like, hey, I'm noticing conversion rates drop. what do I do about it? How should I be adjusting? Should I be adjusting bids? Should I be adjusting budget? So if you guys have any questions on that, we have a really solid playbook on that, and I'm more than happy to give away that information. So I would say this is sponsored by obviously our Amazon ad agency, Junglr, and we have been doing this for long time now, 6 or 7 years. I guess I can say that confidently soon, because we launched the beginning of the year. Again, 6 or 7 years ago. I really should go back and identify like how long it actually has been. So with that, I'm seeing Richard saying hello. So hello to you as well. Again, really excited to get into this. I will not be going live next week on Thursday because it is Christmas. So I'm going to be chilling out with the family. I figure you understand. And also, I'm sure you guys are going to be chilling out with you and yours. Or if you celebrate Hanukkah or any other holidays, I'm sure you guys are chilling with family. So Stuart is saying hi, hello, listening in from LinkedIn. So yeah, if anyone has any Amazon ad questions, drop them into the chat. I will pull up our cool little banner so you guys can be reminded of that. And I do find that with this, a lot of times what happens is there's a lot of questions that flow in towards the very end. So I'm going to be here for roughly about an hour, questions dependent. And so if you do have a question and you save it till the end, there's been some really good questions that because I have to skeet, I do have a lot of projects and meetings coming up. I'm not able to stay and answer those questions. So if you got a pressing question, definitely make sure that you drop it in the chat if you want to get an answer. And with that, I'm going to pull up our first question, which is from Mohammed. He is asking, do you have a preference for bidding strategy for better conversion rates? That is a fantastic question, Mohammed. And I would say for better conversion rates, honestly, that is more dependent on the actual product's conversion rate and the actual targets that you're going after. So when trying to focus in and improve the conversion rate, it's really identifying which of your keywords you have the strongest conversion rate in, and you actually want to roll that into your bid optimizations. So that's one of the things that we're doing right now in a lot of our more seasonal accounts, because right now we have in some of our accounts we might have a couple days left. Let's see, this is the 18th. We're already showing some of the products are showing that they're not going to arrive in time for Christmas, which is like negatively impacting conversion rates, unfortunately. And so what we are doing is whenever we are trying to increase things, or also if we're doing decreases, we're also taking into account the conversion rates of that keyword. I know that wasn't necessarily the question about bidding strategy. If I had to pick one, so if you wanted to go for efficiency, you can select a dynamic bids down only tends to be a really good strategy. Although if you have access to our audit tool, which for those of you, if you don't have access to it, I highly recommend you go and get it. Let me see if I can pull up the video where that is located. I can actually drop that one into the chat. Okay. Let me share this tab and pull it up. This is the audit tool. So it's Amazon PPC tool, cut waste and spend in minutes. If you go to this video, there's a link in the comments. Enter an email. Promise we don't spam you. We just add a ton of value and give you even more insights than weekly. But that tool will actually allow you to input a bulk file, and one of the analysis in that for sponsored product ads specifically, although it also does it for sponsored display ads as well, it will look at the performance of all of the different bidding strategies. So we have found, in terms of increasing conversion rates, dynamic up and down bids in a lot of our accounts is working well. Now, there's some accounts I've audited that the dynamic up and down bidding just isn't getting as high a conversion rate. So you definitely want to look at it for your specific account. That being said, you want to make sure that you're being intentional there, because it is entirely possible to say have like a really high conversion rate and then have a cost to be crazy high. And why that would happen is if your cost per click is just really high. So dynamic up and down bidding will oftentimes increase your cost per click. But if you're getting a much higher conversion rate, like I've seen in some accounts or in some of our accounts, like on average for sponsored product ads, we might be getting like a 15% conversion rate. And then on dynamic bids up and downing, we might be up to like a 20 or 25% conversion rate, which is significantly higher. And then the CPCs just aren't as crazy high on dynamic up and down bidding. So that's what I would pay attention to. If you're only going after conversion rate, I would say test dynamic up and down bidding. But again, because there's that other aspect of that, it increases cost per clicks. Again, I would take a look at that video, run that, or I would again just be careful of the cost per clicks. All right, next question. Hi, how do I scale or optimize ROAS? Great question. In our experience, ROAS, you really want to have a good bid optimization strategy is like the main thing. Now, again, I told you I share resources. I hope that is okay. There is another resource video that we have that I think would be very insightful for you. Is this video right here that says like it's not just bids. So stop changing bids to for Amazon ad lovers that control CPC, because there are other things that will impact it. Really, ROAS control, or for those of you who speak ACOS, it's low ACOS or high ROAS, whatever you're trying to go after. It's really about controlling the cost per click. And when you're controlling the cost per click, there's a couple other things that are come into play. So those, I would say the main thing is to have a good bidding strategy in place. A good bidding strategy will take into account a couple things. You want to take into account, obviously, the ACOS targets, but you want to make sure that you have a system, be it you do it manually, be it you have a software, be it, like you have your own internal bid algorithm, the way that we do, which is one that we've built and refined over like the last 4 or 5 years. It's doing really well. We've actually had some really crazy, amazing updates to that this year that have only allowed us to get even better. Things like being able to dynamically set an individual targeting and optimization settings for things that are branded versus non-branded, regardless if they are actually correctly labeled inside of a branded campaign or not. Because as an agency, all the time we will inherit accounts where there's a whole bunch of branded mixed with non-branded. It's a mess. But that allows us to like segment those things regardless of how where they're on the account, which has been game changer for us. So really understanding that if all you're doing is focusing on ROAS, you can absolutely hurt accounts. That is something you want to be very aware of. Case in point, there was an account, one of our brands, they have multiple accounts with us and they were considering purchasing a brand. So they had us audit that brand's ad structure. And essentially what I found is that the reason like this brand was a little bit desperate to sell, the reason why was because their sales had decreased about 40% year over year, which was like insane. And the drop, actually, the main reason that drop happened was only focusing in on ROAS. All they cared about was ROAS, and in ACOS terms, they went from a 35% ACOS to a 25% ACOS, which you think would improve the count. All it did was tank sales, and it didn't even improve profitability because the total ACOS numbers were still the same. It was insane. And the reason why that happened is because all they were focused in on was ACOS, and they weren't protecting their market share campaigns. So I would say, how do I scale and optimize for ROAS? It's really about cost per click control, which is mainly bids. You also want to look at placement percentages, and you also want to look at your bidding strategies as well. That video goes more into depth on all of those. But what I would say is if you are hyper focused in on ROAS, absolutely make sure you are protecting your market share, i.e., like your ranking strategies, from any aggressive downbidding optimizations. If you do that, then you can absolutely have your cake and eat it too, have an affordable total A cost, have a ROAS or an A cost that is within your targets. Totally doable. But if you don't have like segmented and protection for those campaigns, you will absolutely shoot yourself in the foot right for it. How do you see a big eyewear brand on Amazon with a virtual try-on with prescriptions? Lewis, I'm not 100% sure of that question. Virtual try-ons, to be honest, that's a bit outside of my scope. Although I would say if it's possible to get virtual try-ons, that's pretty nice. I know there are some, and I'm really liking, like I was shopping furniture recently, and the ability to like view the product in your space was pretty cool. There's some really amazing augmented reality, although I haven't had the luxury of just being able to see brand performance with that. So if you have any follow-ups on that or clarification on that question, let me know. All right. How come when my budget says $30 a day, sometimes it doubles, even though it's set up as 30? So question on this, I'm assuming you are, let me see if I can get into the account. Let me show you where this is in the account. So if you go into an account, let me share this. So if you go into your account and you go into settings, you will see this. I'm guessing that you have, when you say $30 a day, you're using a daily budget cap. In that case, that's my assumption. Now you might be using a campaign level budgets. So if you're asking about that, most likely. So here, there's this option, which Amazon changed recently. And we're using campaign level budgets. So we don't, it doesn't really matter if this is turned on, but if we were using a daily budget cap, then we would always choose this. So this allows Amazon to spend up to 100% more than your average daily budget using unspent budget amounts. So the amount you're willing to spend in your campaigns each day. So let's say you have $30, but yesterday you spent $25. There's actually like $5 difference. So if the campaigns spend less than your daily budget, the unspent amount can be used to increase your daily budget up to 100%. So you can get a really significant budget increase. Amazon's touting this as a win. To be honest, I don't like this. So we always select spend up to 20. Again, if we're using a daily budget cap, we're spending up to 5% more. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that even if you're using an account level budgets, notice this, it says sponsored product budget cap. This is a sponsored product campaigns. Let me see if it's in here. No, it's not, but because it says sponsored product ads, these daily budgets do not include sponsored brands and sponsored display. So it could also be that you have a sponsored product cap, but if you're running sponsored brands and display ads, then those will not, it won't apply. And let me see if I can, if I'm able to, I might look at the portfolios and some of the modify portfolio. I just logged in and Amazon changed it to dark mode, which is really annoying because you can't do anything. And now there's a new thing. If you're using portfolios, you can have it share unspent campaign budgets with other campaigns in that portfolio. That could be an option if you're using campaigns. Now, Amazon, thankfully, when they rolled that out, they didn't check it. So how you would find that is you would go into the portfolios tab in the account. You would select the portfolio and then you would click the little modify portfolio button. So I would take a look at that. But that is most likely, I would say most likely, it sounds like it's the account caps. You would want to look at that. I'm having a question on pricing of products. That one, It's not in my area of expertise, to be honest. That is a strategy that some of our brands do on maybe a little bit higher price point. They do it a little bit more of, again, I'm just looking at like what our brands have done and what I've seen worked. I'm not the area expert on this by any means. I have seen brands price it. Now you want to be very careful. Again, I'm going to give you a resource here. Let me see. I'm not the area expert, but I do have some really good friends over at AZ Seller Kit. That is a repricing tool that a lot of our clients use it, really like it, highly recommend them. If you want to get into a repricing tool, a lot of our really large like clothing accounts use them. But this is Amazon Pricing Strategy Explained. I can drop it into the chat as well if anyone's interested in how do you data-driven price adjustments. Jason, basically, he wrote their algorithm, and so he has recommendations on that. But the one thing that he recommends is only change it slightly. And you also want to make sure that you are not like you keep on track of the sales velocity. So if you like increase too much, then sales velocity could go out the window. So you absolutely can try pricing the higher item. One other thing that some of our brands have tried, if you have slower moving variations and you're dealing with overstock levels, sometimes you can price those slower moving items lower if you need to clear stock on those. So that can be helpful as well. Just depends. How do you deal with related keyword options in bulk files? Every time I try to update those through bulk files, it says it's yes. Yes, that is obnoxious. And we are also seeing the same thing. What we did, this is not something everybody could do. Thankfully, we have a developer on staff. So what we were able to do is we now have a API integrated tool that allows us to drop the link of a bulk file, and then all of those changes get uploaded into the system via the API. So that's how we're able to circumvent it. I haven't found a way to fix that just with bulk file uploads. So unfortunately, it's an absolute pain. Can you explain brand and unbranded campaigns? How would you separate a campaign? Yes, that's a good question. So branded campaigns, how I would describe those as they're often referred to like as brand defense. So there can be keyword targeting and there can be ASIN targeting in branded campaigns. What branded campaigns is, like, let's say I have a brand. If I'm targeting my own brand name, this could be in sponsored product ads, sponsored brand ads, or say I'm targeting, like I'm doing cross-selling or defensive strategies. That would be like, you know how on a product listing, and actually I can pull up a product listing for you guys and show you kind of where those appear. Let me find a product. And let's get into this. So brand defensive strategy would be there's this section right here. This is a sponsored display ad. It shows right underneath. And sometimes there's one of these ad types here. And there's one that shows up here. And then if we go down further, you can see that there's all of these other items as well. Now, let's say, so this brand, I just clicked on something random. So it's Awala. They're actually using a brand defensive strategy because you see they have their own products showing up on their listing. So these are other products from the brand. Now somebody else is actually showing up here as well. So what they're doing here is they're saying, okay, I would rather, yes, am I going to have to pay for the click? Yeah. Am I willing to do that because then my other competitors are not able to show their products on my listing? So they are saying that it's working. Now here you can see, again, product videos. This is not an advertising spot. There's other ones here. So you can see how there's other products, but they're pushed all the way down here. And there's also some sponsored brand video that's on the listings as well. These are from other products. And so you can see how there's just a ton of different places that your competitors can show up on your listings. And so the idea of sort of the defensive strategy when it comes to ASIN targeting is like, I want to put my other products that I think somebody might want to purchase in there, because the idea, and like it does work, it will push out my competition from showcasing themselves like all over my listing page. Or the other way that you can do it is obviously keyword targeting. So this is the brand. If you go and you search the brand on Amazon, let's see if they're doing defense strategies. Yep. So you can see they have a, why is it double loading? You can see that they have a sponsored brand ad right here. They also are advertising on their products here. And then if we scroll down and we find, I have way too many plugins, and you can see they have other products. Nope, this is a competitor. So their competitor, but see, their competitor has been pushed down the page. And if they were not advertising on their own brand, then most likely their competitor would have shown up here. And so that's the idea of defense, is that you basically push the competition out of the way, so you make sure that if somebody's searching for you or searching your products, they're more exposed to your products. This works best when you have a catalog that has like a lot of like products that serve a similar market. And so that's defensive. And so how you would separate the campaign ideally is you would have a campaign that says branded, and then you would put your own ASINs into that specific campaign, or your own keywords if you're targeting keywords that and contain your brand name. You would want to put them in there. Now, what we have found is that not everybody does that. That is best practice to separate those out, but it is possible, especially when it comes to ASINs. Sometimes you convert on an ASIN, and because inside a search term report, it's a little bit difficult because you just see the ASIN and you don't see the image of the product to identify like what that actual product is. And so in those cases, a lot of times those things slip through the cracks. So when I was saying like we have a way now to select different targeting or different optimization adjustments for those branded, that's what I'm talking about. Because again, you want the ability to do it within a specific branded campaign, but then you also, again, if something slips through the cracks and ends up in a campaign that it shouldn't, which happens all the time, and I see all the time when we get into new accounts, just not good segmentation. And the reason why that's kind of important is because you should have much better conversion rates on your branded terms. Because if you think about it, if they're already searching for your product, or if they've already clicked on your listing and they sort of like your product, then it stands to reason that they would most likely click onto another one of your products. And so what happens is that your conversion rate is really high. We have several like larger, well-recognized brands, and they're also at like the higher end of the price range, and they can command that price because they have a really strong brand. But the difference between branded and non-branded conversion rates, like in their account, I think, and it's clothing and high price clothing, non-branded is converting, or sorry, excuse me, branded is converting at a 11.5%, and their non-branded, although it's improved, it used to be before we got onto the account, their non-branded was only converting at like a 2% conversion rate, which is really low. We've brought them up to converting on non-branded on a I think it's like a 5.2% conversion rate. It's like a 50% increase from what they had before. It's like really good improvement because we've done better targeting. But you can know, I mean, the difference in performance between something that's converting at, 11.5 and a 5.2, wildly different, right? So what'll happen is that if you have your branded targets mixed in with your non-branded, you'll think like, oh my gosh, this campaign is performing really, really well, because you're going to have great ACoS because of the conversion rates. But which will maybe cause you to give that more budget or to increase that or to get more aggressive. But if you realize the difference in your conversion rates on branded and non-branded, then it becomes very obvious that it just doesn't make sense. Like you don't want to be so aggressive on your branded. Our goal when running branded targeting is to target an ACoS of at least 5 points less. Oftentimes we're looking at 10 to 15 points less. So an example would be like, let's say my target ACoS for the account is 25%. We will target, say, like probably like a 15% ACoS for a branded, because we just want to make sure if we're converting on those targets, we just want to make sure they're really profitable. The only exception to that would be if we have a competitor that's just like going after us super aggressive, we might be willing to bid and go more aggressive on our branded because we want to push them out. Cool. All right. So the question is how to scale a brand on Amazon. Good question. This is like, I'm going to see how much I can fit into this answer. I'm going to see how much I can fit into it. Really, you want to make sure that you have a really strong foundation and you are launching and going after, you have your market share growth campaigns, and then you'll probably have your more discovery, lower bid branded strategies. So really what you want to have is a well-rounded strategy. When I say well-rounded strategy, I mean you have different buckets of targeting that you're going after, and then you have different optimization settings or different ACoS targets for those different buckets. So it's really how you work at scaling. And then the goal is to leverage your campaigns to make sure you are driving high converting traffic to the brand. Fun fact, if you're running really good targeting, your ad conversion rate should be higher than your unit session percentage. If it's not, then there's something off with your targeting. And that's a spot check we use often when evaluating what we're targeting for a brand. So as long as you are leveraging the good traffic to drive up sales, then you should see better performance for advertising. I know that was probably like short, sweet, and kind of vague, but to be honest, the question's a little bit big, and it's kind of hard to pack like 7-8 years of knowledge of Amazon ads into like one succinct answer. My stock is stuck at fulfillment center. Ugh, that sucks. It happens, especially this time of year. To be honest, it's pretty normal. Q4, especially this deep into Q4, like we have brands, especially in giftable items, like we have hundreds or thousands of units stuck in fulfillment FC transfer, unfortunately, or check-in times, or just take really long. What should I do? Clothing category. Honestly, the only real thing you can do, there's not really much to do except for wait, to be honest. If you have the ability to do FBM, that's something that some of our brands have access to. If you have the ability to do FBM, then you can try and turn on an FBM, but in some ways you're just kind of stuck, which sucks. And I'm sorry, there's not a really good answer. Although there might be people who understand those issues a little bit more in depth than I do, because again, my expertise lies in the advertising, not so much the logistics side. 5 stars looking in and saying good luck. Thank you very much. Hopefully I have good answers to you guys' questions today. Awesome. Oh, awesome. OS is saying started using the tool. It's doing well so far, pulling back if velocity drops. Yes, I believe you're referring to AZ Seller Kit. And yes, it is will absolutely help. One of the biggest things in clothing is keeping in stock. It's very difficult. There's a lot of moving pieces. And so it adjusts pricing to account for stock, and then also balances that with like sales velocity and helps. Question, when to utilize promotion coupons and discounts? I would say those are have the biggest impact during tentpole days and sales days, but honestly, coupons and discounts work really well year round. And it depends on how competitive the category you're in. We've seen with a lot of our accounts that they're just really price sensitive. Like if your category is super price sensitive, then running them almost perpetually is really helpful. And we have absolutely seen the impact of like when running a coupon and the coupon goes off, it does impact the conversion rates. The one thing to keep in mind is obviously all of those discounts will eat into your margins. So we had one account. Now they were dealing with overstock issues, and so the inventory fees were going to be impacting their profitability. So they also had to manage that. But if you don't pay attention to it, it is very easy for those discounts to significantly eat into margins. And that was one thing that they found. And then when they went back and analyzed it, like, oh, shoot, we really screwed up our margins. So I would absolutely make sure that if you are like doing those, you absolutely need to make sure that you are paying attention to a P&L and tracking to get the impact of that. All right, Milk Man saying, I was late to the party. We'll be on next time. Awesome. I appreciate that. Cool. Do you see sponsored product video work? Mine approved, but not showing signs of being live. Yes, we are seeing it work. There probably is not going to be many impressions on it right now. What I am finding is that the available placements, at least from what I've seen and also tried to like analyze and recreate the sponsored product video, right now from what I've heard from reps and also our observed information is that the placements are only on mobile currently. So actually that's exactly how Amazon rolled out Sponsor Brands Video. I don't know if anyone remembers because Sponsor Brands Video has been out for a while, but when it first rolled out, the only placements available were on mobile, and which meant that there was just less available ad inventory. And then I think I was one of the first people on LinkedIn to actually catch or find a video in the wild of a Sponsor Brands video ad when it first came to desktop, and now it's rolled out all over desktop and there's way more ad inventory. So that's a factor in that there's just like limited availability of placements. And then I don't know how much they're actually utilizing that ad type on mobile, because even though it is rolled out, it's still technically in beta, and I think they're still testing. And Amazon, whenever they roll out any new ad type, especially when it takes up that much of the search page, they're also trying to be very conscious of what that is going to the shopper experience and how that's going to, if shoppers are going to be okay with it or if they don't like it. Now, they did test it for a while. We were part of the beta where the ads team was testing these just to make sure. And so it looks like they have confirmed that it didn't really hurt the consumer experience. But I have a feeling they're going to want to do a lot more testing on that. And also, if you think about it, let me go over. So this is what it looks like. Now, this is not a screenshot of the wild. This is actually a screenshot. And again, I'm actively working on this guide to sponsored products video ads. And also I plan on putting out a GPT resource, because the one thing that's kind of annoying about these is figuring out how to put together a video. So this is what they look like. You can see there's quite a few there's actually different segments of video that the user can click on. And by the way, if you're using sponsored products video, I would highly recommend using more than one video. So what Amazon actually does is they take a look at the shopper intent search, and they will actually rearrange or readjust the video call outs on the product features to the order will change depending on what they feel is going to be the most important to what that shopper is looking for, which is really freaking cool. but you can see it like this takes up the entire search page, which is awesome. So even if you get like limited impressions on these, they're still like really impactful. And then also, if you think about it, unless they click through to your product, like they can view the video and they can click around, but that isn't considered a click through. So even if you're getting impressions, you still had a shopper with this much view of your product with the interactions of like showcasing the benefits and features. So even if they're not clicking and even if you're not seeing a lot of movement, I still say they are very well worth looking at. Now, how Amazon is planning on translating this into desktop, I'm really interested to see. I have a feeling they'll want to put more ad inventory. But again, I would upload more than one video asset. You can upload up to 5. From my understanding, Amazon is going to showcase 3, but this is what they look like. And I think that's also why there's limited ad inventory, because again, it just takes up so much of the search, but it's more native to mobile just due to the formatting of mobile. So most likely that's what you're seeing. I would expect to see more impressions, more movement as we roll into the next year and as Amazon leans into this asset even more. The one thing to keep in mind that if you're able to get up, the video creatives are going to be the biggest barrier to entry for this ad type. When Sponsor Brands Video rolled out, traditionally, I'm not going to say everyone, traditionally Amazon, people selling on Amazon, but even large brands who even run like a lot of creatives on like Meta and other ad platforms and have a strong D2C site, traditionally brands just aren't great at like any sort of creative assets when it comes to Amazon. And so that's a huge miss, which means if you have the ability to develop these creatives, and if you have we have some large brands that we are onboarding going into this year, a lot of brands onboarding in January. And one of the biggest things, especially in like underdeveloped categories, is going to be how can I get a strategic advantage? And or there's some of our other brands that maybe there's 1 or 2 products where they've just kind of reached like we're getting diminishing returns for what we can do for those products, because we're kind of running on all cylinders for everything. But in those products, we're earmarking sponsored product video as like a huge leg up, and we're rapidly like helping our brands develop creatives for those. So I would say yes, you are in the beginning stages. I would expect to see low data, but I would still say it is very well worth putting the efforts to, because I can only see this improving in the future. I don't think I can target other color variations on our own listing. Yeah, so in our experience, like going back to this product right here and being able to do like defensive targeting, like let's say there was this bottle, but you only had this one listing. In our experience, now here you can see this, and I'd be curious to know if this is sometimes you can get a placement if you have something as a child variation, but generally speaking, to get these placements, you do need to have separate listings. So I would say it's well worth setting up. Just don't be surprised if you get limited impressions on them. If we have AMC audiences, does the conversion rate go up on non-branded? Not necessarily. The biggest thing that you can actually, it depends. One of our favorite ways to use AMC these days is actually to look at new to brand, which can be really helpful in understanding how is our targeting doing with shoppers who have never interacted with our brand before, Or one of my favorite audiences is shoppers who added the product to the cart but then didn't purchase. So there are ways to use AMC as an enhancement. Unfortunately, the way that Amazon has rolled them out as just a placement percentage means we are using them. We are using them in targeting. We have found them impactful, but our amount of control of like only focusing in on that audience segment is very limited, which limits the impact of AMC audiences in sponsored product ads. Now, if you scale and you get outside of that and you're talking DSP, that's a whole nother thing and massive game changer in terms of like retargeting, targeting off Amazon, etc. Amazon, I heard it said that we cannot download more than further 90 days back report, but I don't see that anywhere. Yes, the only reason why we know that is if you go to download any reports, you'll only see the 90-day look back window. Now, Amazon did announce that they would give you the ability to pull data further back than that, which, by the way, if nobody has gone through and explored Amazon's their new tool, let me see if I could share this. I'm gonna bring that down. All right, so this is a new reporting. So if you go into measurements and reporting, and you go into this reporting beta, this is a fantastic reporting. So you can look at, my favorite way to look at this is to look at all of the templates and kind of get an idea of what's available here. This is basically a way to create a combined report. So you know how when you're trying to combine reports and you have to look at sponsored product ads and then we got to combine them with sponsored brand and display, this data will pull in and aggregate sponsored products, sponsored brands, sponsored display, as well as DSP, and also allows you, so for those of you who have multiple marketplaces, you can actually pull a report for all of your ad types in every single one of the countries that you are advertising in. It is chef's kiss phenomenal. I love it. And in looking at look back windows, I think this is the report that allows for different look back windows. Although the one report that you can, and let me see if I can show it to you here again. Give me 1 second. If you go into sponsored products, so it's only in sponsored products and the campaign report. If you look at your look back period, you can actually go really far back with the look back. Like here, I think it's like maybe 2 years of data. It's kind of crazy. So you can pull reports with more look back on the, again, only on the sponsored product campaign report. You can actually pull hourly data for this report. I wouldn't recommend pulling a really long date range for hourly. You can pull daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. So there's a lot more insights that you can get from this report. The downside, of course, is that it's only, because it's a sponsored product campaign report, it's only going to be at the campaign level, and it's only going to be for sponsored product ads, where a lot of us, when we're looking at look back windows, I'm like, I would much prefer to have that in a search term report, but that's not available. So, how many keywords do you track per product on average? Fantastic question. I would say it depends on how many keywords we're using for ranking. Actually, I can pull up one of our accounts and see kind of on average what we're doing for our tracking. Honestly, it depends on the product. So like, say if it's a lesser known product and we don't have many keywords that we're looking on for ranking, we might be tracking, I don't know, like 5 to 10. But like if it's a main product, like I'm looking at one of our main products right now, like we're talking like 72 different keywords for this product because it's like a really important product. But on some of our other products where maybe there's limited amounts of relevant keywords or they're not as important, like on this other one, we're talking 8 different keywords. So I'd say it's dependent on the number of keywords they're going after, and if it's like a main product or not. On average, I would say we're tracking minimum at least 5 keywords, maybe somewhere between 10 and 15 keywords would be what we're tracking. On promotions, discounts, and coupons. I don't know if I have a video going over discounts and coupons. Discord Buzz had asked about promotions, discounts, and coupons. Can I recommend any dedicated videos? That is a fantastic question. And the answer is unfortunately no, because I haven't had anyone on. So whenever I have anything that's outside of my area of expertise, I just leverage my network and we create a video around that. In that case, I have people on my network who do it, but I haven't had anyone on recently, unfortunately. Is there a recommended balance between base bid and placement modifiers? Good question. I would say we primarily focus on bid optimizations, and then we will use placement modifiers as an enhancement on the bids. That's how we've done it. We've done that for years. We have tested the whole lower bid, crazy high placement percentage, or bidding strategies that say would like dynamically factor in placements with bids. I don't like those strategies. We've tested them. They're a hit or miss. They work sometimes, and sometimes they absolutely destroy accounts. They're not as universally applicable. And so we sometimes will have, say, like specialty campaigns in an account, or there are some of our accounts where if we get, like, say it's a new account and we didn't set up the campaigns, but if there's one with a low bid and high placement percentage that is working, in those cases, we'll just make moderate adjustments. I don't like to break anything that is working. That being said, we found it's best to focus in on your bid adjustment settings. And then what we do is we have an incremental approach for the placement percentages that factors in what is the ACoS target. Where is that specific placement percentage performing? Is it overperforming? Is it underperforming? And then we will simply add or subtract from the placement percentage in small increments of, I think it's like adding 5 points, maybe 10 points if we're going crazy, and then tracking and adjusting from there. So that is what we have found in all of our testing to be the best strategy, best universal strategy for placement optimizations. If performance and sales velocity totally cost drops all of a sudden, do you ever do a pivot table search terms or search term impressions shared by day to see where the drops to PPC can be optimized? Abso-freaking-lutely. So what we will do is we will look at, so if performance, sales, or total ACoS all of a sudden has a dip, that means there are some changes. So the question in a sales dip is, what drove that dip? Is it a conversion rate? Is it an impression rate thing? And the very first thing we will do, again, because we're an ad agency, is we will actually go and we'll look at the spend trajectory. Has spend gone up or down in an increment that is way too volatile? We'll look at cost per clicks, and we'll look at the number of clicks just to see. And then we actually have an analysis. I have found that going all the way down to a search term level, sometimes like it's like forest for the trees and it's really difficult to see. So I prefer like a top-down like rabbit hole approach, which says on an account level, which I like to isolate it to the specific products that saw the biggest drop. And then again, analyze the ad performance. And then we actually have a comparison report that we can tool. So we'll isolate the date of change. And then we can go into the comparison tool on a campaign level and say which campaign have we seen the biggest decrease for? Again, are we looking at, has it been a decrease in sales? Is it a decrease in ad conversion rate? Again, we're speaking from an ads perspective. So we absolutely do, we track accounts daily, we look at performance daily, and then we watch for, positive trends and negative trends. Either of those can give you clues into like, what are we doing that's working? What have we done that's not working? And then you would go in and you would analyze kind of what's happened. And that's mainly, I think, that's a check that account managers do as well as leadership, because we always want to make sure we know what's going on in accounts. All right, question select mainly. At what point do you stop testing a keyword and start trusting the data? So testing is really about the number of clicks. So there's the first test that you want to have, which is just, I need to get enough impressions. And then once you have enough impressions, which is typically you increase the bids. So we have a cadence of like daily, we'll increase the bids by a certain amount to start to gain impressions. Once you start to gain impressions, then you should start to gain clicks. And then from there, we can determine if the clicks are enough. And actually, let me see if I can pull up a analysis chart that we have. I'm gonna take a look at it and see if this would be helpful. But we will analyze, like, are we getting clicks? And then once we're getting clicks, if we identify that we have enough clicks to make a determination on if it's working or if it's not working, that's when we look at that analysis. And hold on, we have a map on. All right. Let me share this screen. This is kind of in development, but so this is like our ranking keywords, and this is where we go through. So we're launching our campaigns. So we launched about 20 cents above the suggested bid. If no fails, what we're doing is we're monitoring if ranking is improving, and so we're increasing the bids 2% daily. If ranking is not improving, we might decrease them. So again, if keywords aren't getting any impressions, then we're doing that. So we do an analysis. Let's see. We do a search query performance analysis. So if our keyword has good conversion rate, we have good click-through rate, then we would increase bids. If we have low visibility, if we're seeing ranking issues, meaning we have low conversion rates, then we might just leave the bids. And this is a whole process to determine, like, if a product isn't converting on a high volume keyword, then of course we need to notify clients. So bid increases, we are increasing the bids daily only if ranking is improving. So we're looking at click-through rate, we're looking at conversion rate to determine that. If 3 or more orders and ranking trend is in the top 5, again, we're looking at market signals. You might decrease the bids. So again, if the ranking is not trending in the right direction, again, I'm assuming when you're saying testing a keyword, we're looking at it from a ranking perspective. If it's not specifically a ranking campaign, then our just usual algorithm kicks in, where we just look at how many clicks do we have enough clicks to start optimizing. If we do, then of course we're decreasing it if it's not getting orders. If it has gotten orders and is within certain ACoS thresholds, increasing or decreasing based on our targets. But there's like several algorithms running in tandem for those kind of things. Is there a good tool that helps with inventory transfer recommendation from 3PL to FBA? Also restocking recommendations for supplier to 3PL. I know, not off the top of my head, but I could ask my network. And then I know you have access to KPOC through us, so I think that there is some factoring in, but I'll make sure you get the resources on that for sure. For sure. I know about the campaign report sponsored product ads. You could actually pull up to 5 years. Yep. So a lot of data available in there. Yeah. 90 days can be selected for manual reports. Yes. And then there's some reports that only allow for a 60-day. So lots of potential data. Again, if you haven't gone through and analyzed the new beta reports, I would recommend playing around with that. There's some really fantastic insights that you can have. There's some really cool stuff that you can pull that's like not available. There's some really cool data points that are available in that report that are unavailable anywhere else. So if you haven't already seen that report, I would highly recommend you check it out. And with that, it looks like we are at the top of the hour. You guys have all had fantastic questions. This has been an amazing session to close out the year of 2025. So yes, I will not be here next Thursday. I will be celebrating. It will be Christmas. So this has been our last live of the year. So with that, I really appreciate everyone joining in. This has been honestly one of my favorite days of the week. I have enjoyed this. I don't think I have missed I've missed a couple Thursdays, but not too many this year. I should look back and see how many lives I did this year because it's been a lot. But with that, I really appreciate it. I will see you guys all in the new year. And I hope everyone has a fantastic holidays with the family. Check you all in a couple weeks. And that wraps up this episode of the Ask Junglr Amazon Advertising Podcast. I hope you found these insights and strategies helpful in your Amazon PPC journey. Remember, if you have a burning Amazon ad question that you'd like answers to, head over to junglr.com/live to join our next live Q&A session. Until next time, keep optimizing those ads and stay hungry.